Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Wherever you are in the world, it's a pleasure to be with you here today. Thank you for coming to our PMP exam lessons learned series. One of our PMP gurus is going to be sharing with us if he was on our course in August, September, and is now a PMP, which is phenomenal. And she's going to be sharing how she did it. Before we get started with Iffy's lessons learned, I'll go through a few important announcements to make. As you see on the screen, this is from our PMP exam masterclass series. You can go to projectmanagementmasterclass.com and learn more about it. My buddy Roy, you see on the screen, and I put this program together to help project managers when PMI scrambled the configuration and made it very heavily agile and hybrid. A lot of folks didn't know what to do. So early on in 2021, we started training, coaching, and mentoring folks to get certified. And so far, we've had home run after home run. Our next session is coming up. It was actually meant to have been today, but we're going to stagger it for a week. So if you're keen on joining Roy and I, whether virtually or otherwise, all you need to do is go on down to our website and check out the options. You could either have one-on-one coaching, you could have training on demand, or if you wanted to be part of the masterclass, all you need to do is go on down to projectmanagementmasterclass.com. We also have the PMP exam radio show. Just go on down to pmradio.org if you want to know more about this radio show, and it will help you with your PMP exam prep. So, Iffy, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Woo! Congratulations, Iffy. My goodness. What an
Yeah.
interesting journey we've had.
Yeah, I know. I gave you a
I,
hard time, didn't
no, you didn't. I think the system held up to its reputation because I know at first it was like, seriously, you think I can get certified that quick? So tell us, how do you feel now you're certified?
I? A big relief off of my back because there's a laundry list of things that I need to accomplish within the next year, and that was the nearest term. So the sooner I got it out of my table, the better for me. So yeah,
Wow.
uh, long time coming.
Yeah. So why did you want to do this? I mean, some people would say it's torture. Why put yourself through months and months of studying? Why do it?
Well, primarily, it's my career path. So, I've been in the industry, or my industry, for 16 years, of which 10, well, a little bit 11 of those years, I've played a role of somewhat of a project manager. My background is in engineering, and because I work for more like the client operators, we do more managing of engineering scope than we do actual engineering scope. So from the onset, I was introduced to the ideology of leading and managing scopes and costs and budgets and vendors, etc. And I realized in order to solidify my career, I needed to kind of certify myself in that amongst other things. But that was why I went that path.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense, Iffy. So let's talk about the exam. Leading up to the exam, you found Praizion. How did you find Praizion? Was that on social media or how?
Funny enough, I attempted my first time kicking off the journey of project management was actually, let's see, I took exam 2018, but in 2017 I was with BP at the time, and a lot of things were happening. I was a VP, I had a baby, I was managing a turnaround, so there were a lot of things occurring, and that was the moment in time I decided to look into getting a certification. So because I was so busy and I didn't really have plans at the time to take the exam, I would kind of brush myself up. So I would go onto YouTube and type in keywords, project management certification, get people's inputs, and then you popped up. And there were specific knowledge areas that I would like to know what you covered or how you taught. And risk management was one of the areas that I was most concerned about because I was managing a turnaround, and that was one of our biggest issues. Where managing the risks around multiple projects occurring simultaneously, and you basically covered the basis of risk management and how to manage multiple streams of scopes at the same time. So I was intrigued by the way you taught. And when I started to study for the PMP around 2018, I went back to because I just saved I saved your video, and I went back to the video and saw all your video clips and then started following you. But although I wasn't trained by you because I was trained by the company, I would go to your videos to kind of get additional information. It's kind of like my drive to work, um, snacks. So that was the first time I learned of Praizion and learned of you. Fast forward, when I decided to go back into it, I said, you know what, I know Praizion. Let me go back to him and join this time around. So
Lovely. Well, I am so delighted that you found that first video and that you came along for the journey, Iffy. So when you came aboard with us, we had project management masterclass, and we went through a lot of stuff. But at first, the very first week, we started talking about Agile right off the bat. So how did you feel after? I think I know the answer to this, but how did you feel after the first week being dunked into Agile straight away?
it was a mix of both, two types of feelings. I think I mentioned it to you. I was actually happy that PMI has now, because I took the exam 2 years ago. Unfortunately, it wasn't a success story, but in part, I didn't really plunge into preparation mode. I was working and doing it on the side. And then secondly, I didn't finish the exam, and I knew the implications of not finishing. And when I say
Mm,
not finishing, 100 questions were left untouched. So you can imagine how that had affected my overall score. So who knows? I could have passed it back then. However, back then it was very traditional, which is what I'm accustomed to. When you introduced Agile, I mentioned to you, I like that. I know
yeah.
because I naturally think Agile. So the fact that we are kind of incorporating it now, I'm looking forward to it. So it was a mix of, okay, I like it personally. I think I will understand the study better, but at the same time, is my industry ready?
Mm.
Just the EFI thing, or is this something I can take back to the home office and utilize? So it was a
Mm.
mix of both.
Gotcha. So for those folks who are watching and feel, oh, well, I haven't been for any agile training or scrum training. Can I do this? The answer is you absolutely can. You heard Iffy and what she just said, right, Iffy? I mean, they can
Yeah,
do it even if they haven't, taken a CSM training class.
yeah. I mean, it was my first stab at it. Again, I came from a traditional world. In engineering, everything is infrastructural, so we use traditional planning. I did not know anything about Agile until the first day I met you in the class, August 7th. So if I could make it through, I'm sure anyone can.
Thank you. Thank you for that assurance. So right here on the screen, it talks about how you studied, how many hours, how you organized the chapter. So I know for the training, we went through Agile, and then we started going a little bit into the PMBOK guide. Um, just from your experience, I'm curious, based on perception, without thinking about it too much, being the engineer that you are, we engineers, we think percentages all the time. But what
Exactly.
percentage of the training that you received would you say was agile versus predictive? Just gut gut feel.
Ooh, I would say 85%.
Yeah. And I know that's going to shock people because they're like, oh, what? But the funny
Yeah,
thing is, you already had a very solid traditional background. And what you
right.
needed more, and what many people need most, is a lot of the agile dose. So let's talk about when our course got done at the end of September. At the end,
Mhm.
was it end of August, right? End of August, yes. And I
No,
started telling
September
you
1st.
for end of August, right?
1st, end of September. I mean, not the 1st of September. So it was a month, August 7th to September 7th.
Gotcha.
Right.
Oh, wow, wow, wow. Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah,
And okay. So that means between the time we finished the class, you
yeah,
executed on my plan to just go do it in less than a month. You did it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Whoa.
yeah.
I didn't realize that. That is funny.
Mhm.
Wow. Well done. So what
Thank you.
dates did you get certified again?
I officially took the exam October 9th. Now, I must say, so we were done September 7th, and you challenged us to use 3 weeks. So
Yeah.
literally a week shy of a month to be ready and take the exam, of which I was shaking in my boots. So um, I did not meet that challenge only because I took the mock and I did not finish in the time allocated. And I remember I mentioned my last test.
Yeah.
I did not finish, and I didn't want to lose on that, so I gave myself another week to brush up on my timing, and
Good.
took it the first week of October. So October 9th officially, I
Wow.
was certified.
It's
Saturday
brilliant,
is when I took
brilliant. And
a
to
week.
be quite honest, yeah, Iffy, my challenge was very aggressive because I know if we have student syndrome. If you give someone a month, they take two. If you give them 2 weeks, they take a month. Typically, not everyone, but typically. So I decided to put fire under everyone to get certified in 3 weeks. But really, in my mind, I knew 6 weeks might be when people start getting into it. But you got into it earlier and you did it,
Yeah,
and I was so excited to get that news. You didn't tell me the day of the when you were going to do it, but I knew that you were getting warmer and warmer because I started seeing activity on the learning
yeah,
system. So how did
yeah.
you do that? Were you studying a certain number of hours every day, taking a certain number of quizzes? Walk us through what you did.
Yeah, so you had a few guests come on board in which I probed them a lot about their study. If you remember, a lot of my questions to them were their study plan. And a lot of them are working full time. I'm at the moment not back at work because I had a baby recently, so
Wow.
I'm stretching out my maternity leave coupled with a COVID scenario.
Wow.
That said, my goal was to take it before I go back to work, just so I wouldn't fall back into old habits. And so when those volunteers, candidates came in and spoke to their time management, they're working full time, although they didn't have kids. I basically reversed their formula. So they work probably 10 hours a day, which they literally after work from the time they have up from the office, they have their lunch,
Iffy, you're cutting out,
snacks.
you're cutting out just a tad. Just a
Can you hear
tad.
me
Yeah, I think it's the voice over
now?
IP gremlins. But I know you're
Oh,
there.
great.
Are you still there?
Can you hear me now? I'm
Yes, I
here.
can.
Can you
I
hear
can
me?
hear you. Uh-huh.
Oh, great. Yeah. So I was saying, those that have a full-time schedule at work and had dedicated time after work, say from 5 to possibly 11, let's just throw a number out there. That was a good 6 hours of study time that they put post work. I don't have after work flexibility because the kids are back from school, but I have during work flexibility because I was not at work. So I transferred the 6 hours backwards and said, okay, so since I dropped them off, I will now schedule. And I think we mentioned when you work, when you study or you work, you absorb a lot of information the first 1 to 2 hours. Afterwards, it starts to decline. So I plugged in breaks and lunches, and I basically found a good library. And from 9 to 11, it was a straight focal study. Then I'll take lunch, and then that'll be 1 hour, and I'll come back to the library and continue from 1 to 3, 3:30 at best. And the reason being is generally once you hit that 3:30, at least for me, my brain absorption, because it's the afternoon, starts to decline. You start to get tired and woozy. So I shut down at 3:30. I do my mother role, pick up the kids, feed them, put them to bed. They go to bed at 8 p.m., 9
Wow.
p.m. worst case. And I give a good 1 hour from 9 to 10, sometimes 2 hours, then go to bed at 11. And that was my study plan for 3 weeks actually, because the last week leading up to the exam was just doing exam. I'm doing tests and quizzes and mock
Wow.
exams.
Wow. Look, I doff my hat to you. I know a lot of people will be listening and wondering, how do you even do that? And I could ask the same question, but you're obviously very disciplined and you stuck to the routine and you kept on just hammering away at it and success. It's not a small feat. If anyone just has one kid, they know, and then you add a newborn on top. Oh my goodness. So that is
Yeah.
huge. I doff my hat to you. Well done. So you were doing a combination of reading, or were you
Mhm.
watching videos? You were taking quizzes for sure. Can you give us a rough
Yeah.
idea of how it looked?
So, with your learning module, every chapter, I kick it off with your quizzes. So I
Mm,
just go straight to quizzes before I even watch your module. The quiz kind of sets the tone in my head for absorption. And I do all the quizzes actually. I don't just do the first quiz, I do all the quizzes. And then I then go to your module. But as you're talking, I'm literally following through with my book. And you're talking and highlighting key points and writing little notes, key notes. So I have a notebook and I usually write out a lot of notes, draw some graphs, charts that apply, and that was one thing I did. But one thing I also did differently, I did go from like chapter 4 to 5 to 6. I went from knowledge area and process, like you're in the integration knowledge area.
Iffy,
And
you're cutting out again.
you,
I know it's probably the internet. It's
can you hear me?
Saturday. Everyone's at home watching the goofy old, movies they do on online. So it's probably making things making you cut out. But I wanted you to know so that folks can really get what you're saying, and maybe that
Yeah.
the tide will go. So you said you went through the learning system, and what I
Mhm.
picked is you were doing all of the quizzes, not just watching videos or whizzing through just random quizzes. You were doing all of those quizzes. The quiz set the tone for what you were going to learn, and then you watch the video, and you did that for the knowledge area part, right?
Yes, I did it for the knowledge area part. So your knowledge area, your quizzes was the initial action before going to reading up, because the quiz
Mm.
will define my problem areas. And that
Mhm.
was, and it gives me the confidence of knowing where I'm strong and where I'm weak. So I went through every quiz, then I go and read. And
Mm.
then when I'm reading, I'm absorbing better. Then another thing I did is I was studying per knowledge area. So if you're in the integration knowledge area, in the knowledge area and process group, if you're in the integration knowledge area under the initiation process group, you have basically your develop project charter. But another thing that happens in initiation is your stakeholder management, right? Identify
Mm.
stakeholders. Can you hear me? Make
I
sure
can hear you. Yeah,
change.
I took my video off
Great.
because I thought maybe the feed was too video heavy, and that might cause it to lag a bit. So yeah, I hear you.
Oh, good, good. So I was studying in accordance to the process group. Under
Mm.
initiation process, two things you're doing. You're developing a charter and you're identifying your stakeholders. So I will
Mm.
go from 4.1 and then quickly run down to 13.1.
Mm. Good.
Yeah. So
Fantastic.
I
Wow.
all the activities that are involved in that initiation. And then I go back to 4.2, which is the integration section where you're going to develop your project management plan. And then in
Mm.
that, you have all of the connectors. You can now go on from 4.2 to 4.3. But that's how I kicked it off. It's 4.1 first. Then I went down to 13.1. And then I understood, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do in initiation. I'm supposed to
Mm.
identify my stakeholders, develop my charters, understand my business plan, understand my benefit management plan. So in 4.1, I would even toggle back sometimes to chapter 3 and 2 to understand all the elements in my business cases, my benefit.
Mm.
It has to make sense why
Mhm.
I'm doing what I'm doing. And so
Absolutely.
I wasn't doing it sequentially. I was doing it in practically, is the
Hmm.
word? Yeah, I was practicalizing as if I was at work.
That helps a whole lot. Put some context into how you
Yeah.
really ace this exam. So you didn't just go chapter 4, 5, 6. You were going by process group. And for those who don't know, it's page 25. What if he did was start at the top of the page, 4.1 down to 13.1, then to 4.2, then go through. But she wasn't going through robotically. She was going back to, like she said, the business case, page 33, looking for stuff that was relevant as she went along, which is really how you should study so that everything comes together. So tell us, Iffy, you said, from your opinion, the course was very heavy, like 85% agile, which is true.
Yeah.
In your
Yeah.
studying, how would you distribute your studying? Was it the same proportion, or did you spend some more time in the traditional piece?
No, not the same proportion. So we kicked off the program Agile. You taught us Agile.
Hmm.
So I dedicated my learning from August 7th to September 7th with you on Agile. After the
Hmm.
class, I read Agile book, I read the Scrum book. Now, where I was uncertain and insecure was the traditional. There, it's
Mm,
still not going away. So after that was done, I dedicated the days after September 7th. I gave myself a good 2 weeks and some change to brush up on the traditional. So it
mm,
was easy for me to do that because once I've applied, I applied at work. I've read it up before, even though it was 2 years prior. And with the agile learning, even though we're using different terminologies, the processes are almost kind of the same. And it
mhm,
kind of flows for you, so you get why you're doing things the way you're doing it. So yeah, I dedicated
mm,
2 weeks of our training to just traditional. Then
mm,
back to the agile guide and did a quick scan read from chapter 1 through 6 and spent a good amount of time at the back of your glossary where you have terminologies. I went
yeah.
there and looked at those terminologies and definitions. What's the
Mm,
glossary? I don't have to look here to reference what that where they have definitions of terms. Can
yeah,
you hear me?
gotcha.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So that's how I did it. We first did agile, then I went to traditional, and then I went back to agile. And the reason I did that is also a lot of the testimonies that came through. A lot of people attested to the exam being primarily agile,
Right.
and so I needed to kind of give, and that's what's new to me. I needed to give a little bit more attention to agile in the beginning, then brush up on my traditional,
Mm,
specifically around the traditional part. I think the part that we all need to focus on is less of the people and more of the process because agile is more people.
mm,
Um,
mhm,
look you can easily grasp people concept better through agile learning.
mhm.
Process is more of the PMP guide.
That's
And
very good
so
advice. Mm, mhm.
yeah.
Very, very good advice. If I like this information you're sharing because it's different from what we hear a lot. So let's talk really quick about the ITTOs, the elephant in the room. So the people normally freak out, oh, ITTOs, and I said during the training, don't worry about these ITTOs to cram them, just understand what they are. Now that you've taken the exam, could you kind of flesh out that advice I gave and maybe give your own perspective regarding ITTOs and how to tackle them?
So it's different now than before. I would give a different advice if you'd asked me 2 years ago. You 2 years ago you had to almost cram your ITTOs. Today, don't cram it. Understand it. Understand when it's used, why it's used.
Mm,
Um, and that's why understanding the process more than cramming the process is key. The ITTOs, I did not cram the ITTOs. I just understood what tools and techniques are required when you're developing a charter. And when you are introduced to those tools and techniques, again, think applicability. It's
mm,
applicable that those meetings applicable, that you have some facilitation occurring. Identifying stakeholders, same thing. So you have to look at the applicability because I think what PMI is doing, this exam was very, if you go in cramming the PMBOK guide, it's not going to be successful. You have to go and it has to be part of your language. Another thing I did too is in just regular communication, even at home, I introduced it into my language.
I love it.
Just norming. Yeah, like I'll talk to my husband like if we could go through a conflict. And I was like, I know we're going through our norming phase. I'll just take very casual.
Oh, he must have loved that.
Yeah. Oh, he's the scrum guy. So he was like,
Okay.
I see you. Yeah. And I would say, oh, retrospectively, we should.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. Oh,
yeah.
that
So
is so interesting.
yeah. So tools and technique, my advice is the tools and techniques that at least what I did. The tools and techniques that were shared or that's in the PMBOK guide are tools and techniques that are naturally used in those processes. period. If you're going to have to learn to negotiate or influence a stakeholder, the tools and techniques identified are applicable in nature. So, um, like a stakeholder is anybody that you're trying to influence to, let's just put it this way, a stakeholder is anybody you attempt to influence to do things in the way that you recommend that also affects them if you fail. And that can go from your personal life to your professional life. Your husband is a stakeholder. A friend, if you guys are out and about doing something and you're trying to influence the decision of where you want to go, is a stakeholder because you're riding together. So those decisions that are made can affect the person in that very moment. So if
Mm,
you apply it in that way and realize, okay, in order for me to influence a direction, what do I do? And those tools and techniques are there to tell you how to do it. You know, so
brilliant.
um,
Brilliant. Good stuff.
I'm speaking very general, but
No, no, you're dropping some knowledge and idea bombs, Iffy. I love it. This is extremely helpful and refreshing as well. Um, this is a first for folks to take the language and take it home and use it with their stakeholders. Preparing for the exam is really awesome. And I'm gonna ask for the knowledge areas. I know you've shared as well. You went through this, but let me ask the same question I did a few moments ago in more explicit terms. What percentage of your studying would you say was knowledge area, process group, PMBOK?
oh gosh, 90%, because it's also applicable in Agile too, in some way. So it's not mutually exclusive, if I can say that. 90%.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 85% of the class was more like the agile, but for your studying, you would say you double down more on the traditional.
Yes, I
90.
did on the because Agile, the exam, at least my exam, was very much more hybrid,
Mm,
right? And yeah, more hybrid, and maybe about 10% of it was like Agile specific, maybe a Scrum specific approach, but
mm.
it was very much hybrid. So because
Interesting.
it's very much hybrid, you have to understand your knowledge areas. You have to understand your process. A lot of the exams, even when it was hybrid, tied back to a process. So they would reference
Mm,
like, every quiz that you take with you, you always reference what happens in a software company or a software organization. But even in the software organization, I mean, Scrum Master is a process guru in and of itself. There is a process you follow, and so and then of course you have the knowledge area that you look at. So if you're in then I'm trying to see how I can link it together. But
I
let's
get where you're going. So the bottom line is
yeah,
it's even though it's hybrid, you still need, because it's hybrid, of course,
yeah.
you still need to understand the traditional pieces.
Mhm.
Knowing Scrum or Agile alone is not sufficient because you could still
Right,
be at sea if you don't tie it to
right.
the relevant knowledge area. I get what you're saying. So pretty much the Agile practice guide, the way it weaves things in and out from page 90 to 95 is very
Mhm.
knowledge area specific, but it opens up to how you tackle it with an agile mind. So it kind of hybridizes it.
Yeah, and I want to add on to that okay, for me, something crazy happened during the exam. My old habits kicked in initially. You get into the
Okay.
exam, you try to calm your nerves, and in doing so, this is for me, I would kick off working slow. So, and I even said
Mm.
to myself I was going to take a break. Unlike before, I never took breaks, and I got exhausted halfway through. I just got tired and gave up. But I took my first break when I got in, and in my first break, I completed 60 questions and took a 10-minute break. And by the time I came back, I realized I had 180 minutes left, and I have 180 questions left. So you do the math, I'm already behind.
Mm.
Um, and I didn't realize that until I got back. Even when I got back and continued, I didn't realize until I had gone 20 questions in. Now, one thing I did do in my practice is when I was trying to get my timing together, I looked for ways to take the exam where I wouldn't lag. And notice I'm using the word lag.
I
Get
saw
me?
that.
Okay. Yeah, where I wouldn't lag. What I did is when you understand your knowledge area and you're going through a question statement, which could be a paragraph in itself, sometimes going down to the options A through D, then working back up to what is the question. So if you go to the options A through D, you can decipher, okay, we're in stakeholder management right here, looking at the options A through D. And in stakeholder management, you definitely don't do this, and you don't do this, and you don't do that. So you could narrow it down to two possible answers or even three possible answers. Then you look at the question and it's asking you, then when you look at the question, you can now cross out additionals. And then if you don't get it from the question, then you can go up one statement. Don't go to the beginning where it says, oh, you're in a software company. That's
Mm-hmm.
distracting.
Yeah.
Kind of go backwards. So for me, the knowledge area allowed me weed out the options that were not applicable to that knowledge area.
Mm,
And
gotcha.
that's why I said knowledge area. I don't know if it works, but I hope it works.
That is a very helpful perspective. So there's no cutting out the knowledge areas, because some people seem to think that you can do away with it and just go full on Scrum and Agile and pass the exam. But I think they'll be in for a shock because they would not do as well as they could have. So this is
Right.
very helpful. Let's jump into the exam, Iffy, and I want to encourage those listening, our friends on YouTube, our friends here in Zoom. Feel free to start asking questions for our PMP exam guru. So, if you tell us what percentage of your exam would you say was, I think I kind of inferred it from earlier, but you give us a kind of rough number for which percent was agile and hybrid?
Hybrid, hybrid is 85 to 90% for my exam.
Mm.
And agile was the balance. It's agile and hybrid.
So
And I
agile and
think,
hybrid about
let me
85,
say
90.
about, yes, and about 2% was traditional. The
Wow.
traditional
Oh dear. Then
too
anyone
far.
who's, yeah, that's a chunk. Wow.
Yeah.
So you got into the exam. Did you take it at home or in a test center?
No, I went to a test center.
Okay. So when you got in and you saw the first question, of course, we're keeping everything secret, but you saw the first question, whatever it was, did you feel confident, like, oh, this is a piece of cake, or did it kind of stop you?
I wasn't confident. I actually, yeah, I honestly, I wasn't on my table like, yeah, I got this, I got this. I was that way when I was walking to the exam center, but as soon as I saw the first question, I think it's a
Oh,
psychological thing.
oh dear.
And that was where I had to calm my nerves. I said, "Ooh, okay," and then I had to put myself in a setting again. So part of calming my nerves is, okay, take your time, look at the applicability, and I use knowledge areas again to say, okay, what am I doing right now? Am
Hmm.
I innovating? Am I identifying stakeholders? What am I doing at this point in time? Am I managing communications? What am I doing?
I
And
love
that
it.
was the way I led into, okay, let me look at the options. And then I started finding my rhythm. But no, going in, the first question, boom, in my face, I was mentally thrown aback and had to bring myself back into the zone. And I think it happens whenever you come to a new job, a new role, whatever the case may be. As soon as you get hired on, you come and you meet your team and introductions pass and they give you all of the files and folders. It's always a boom in your face. And you're like, okay, what am I doing? Or
Mm,
what have we done? What have they done? Ask those questions. Okay, what have you guys done yet? Okay, great. Oh, what do you want me to do? Okay, got that kind of thing. And then you start to get your rhythm.
I love it. Thank you for that. I'm writing down my notes. So it's what am I doing? What have you done? And to be able to know how to put it in context, knowledge areas and the PMBOK guide lingo does help to really pin it down. That's very helpful. So average of how many questions an hour? Did 3 hours, 50 minutes? Were you answering, like, well, let's just go by the break. So the first break came up. Were you good to go with 60, or were you lagging or
I was
leading?
I was lagging. First
Mm,
half is three halves. They break it into three halves, and then you can opt to take a break or not. So first half, I thought I was, but I realized I was actually lagging. I took my time, and by the time I finished 60 questions out of 180 questions, I literally had 100 and I think it was 120 minutes left to do 180 more. What's this? How many questions? 180 questions. Yeah, 120 more questions.
wow.
Um, that's you may think, okay, a minute for each question, but that really depends. I wasn't really
Yeah.
going at the pace of a minute per question. I was
Wow.
actually going 2 minutes or so per question. So I
Wow.
continued the second half with that same speed and realized that I was actually spending 2 minutes or so
Oh my gosh.
per question, and that was when I had to switch my approach mid answer, saying, you know what, okay, how about I get through the second half? This is three halves, right? I mean, three portions. Let me get through the second half, which will land me at 120 questions, right? And
Mm,
do it by looking at the options, identifying the knowledge area we're dealing with, identify are we going more agile, because you look at the options, you can also, and then the questions, you can also determine if this is a more there's some questions, there's some great questions that's just direct, iterative, predictive. You don't have to go through that. So, but it's few and far between. For me, it was few and far between, wasn't a lot of them. But when you had most of them, you do have to identify, okay, what are we doing? And some they will say it's agile, but most times they will not tell you it's agile. You have to decipher if it's agile. You have to determine that on your own. So you
wow.
got to determine that to know your answer. Cross out. I used a lot of crossing out. I crossed out a lot of what's not applicable and what could be applicable, worked back to the question, and then picked my best answer, like you said, the best
Hmm.
answer
Wow.
to that knowledge area and that project cycle approach, and
Mhm.
then cross my fingers and hope that it was right.
So Iffy, let's go back in time to our mock exam. You took our people, process, business, little quizzes of 30, 30, 35, whatever it was. And then you also took
Right,
the behemoth, the 180. Would you say
right.
that our questions were easier than the real exam, or was the real exam easier? Which one?
Oh no, it was definitely not easier. Your questions, oh my gosh, let's see. Your questions catered to the module, and I think they're the same, but
Mm,
they're different there. So I would say it's about the same. The exam could be slightly easier, but it was about the same. I would
that's
say
good
the
to know.
exam is slightly easier, but it was about the same. Yeah.
That's good to know that we're on track. That's good. So you've talked about the pacing. You took all your breaks. Did you take any snacks there? Did you kind of chill or
No,
just?
no, just water and a pee break. It
Mm,
was just to get, and I took 8 minutes out of 10 minutes, but there was only that one break. After that, when I realized I was lagging, I literally um, did not take any other breaks because I didn't have the luxury.
hmm. So when the exam ended, did you have any time left on the clock, or was it all expended?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It was magical. I would say, as I realized how far behind I was. Let me just tell you, it was 48 minutes left. I had
Wow.
80 questions left to go.
How many left to go?
80.
What? 48 minutes left?
Yes.
Wow. So you picked up the pace manically. How on earth did you
I
do that? That
I
means you
had
were
to go.
doing like 40 second a question?
I literally at that last half, I literally selected all of my answers, not because of my time management, not because of anything, but I literally selected all my answers by process of elimination. I'm not good at
Mm,
guessing. Um, so I took all my answers in the process of so I would look at the answers and I would say, okay, we are in this knowledge area, and you don't do this in this knowledge area. You don't do this knowledge area. So it was, at least from my standpoint, the options that PMI presented. It wasn't like 2 years ago where it could be confusing, because if the questions 2 years ago they would say what process
hmm.
or what group or what tool, and so it may be the same knowledge area, but it's just a tool versus a process. This is not what the way, this is completely applicability case scenario. So the key is know which knowledge area you're in. And in the answers, they did not give anything confusing. It was basically, if that answer is the knowledge area, that's the right answer. If it's not in the knowledge area, it won't, the other answers are not in that knowledge area at all. So a question that was in the stakeholder management knowledge area, they would throw in other options that was in communication management knowledge area.
Mm,
So
mm,
just, okay, it's communication management, rule out, it's stakeholder. And I didn't know, I didn't even know what the questions were.
mm.
And so I would say I
Wow.
wasn't sure I wasn't sure that I was going to pass it because of that last half, but
Mhm.
that approach that saved me. I was actually very surprised that I was above target on all areas, to be honest.
I'm not surprised. You followed the process, and that's what I said from the get-go. Follow the process, and I don't know whether you thought this guy's a bit crazy. He just says follow the process. Is that for real? But you did, and I really appreciate you listening and just doing everything that you were advised to do. Taking There are a lot of folks who didn't do as much work as you did and they passed, but you did a lot of the stuff on the LMS. And
Yeah,
look at the result, just phenomenal. And you showed up. You were very serious with class attendance. There's some students who are not as serious with class attendance, and they find themselves having more work to do on the back end. But I think we loaded up pretty well in the class. So I like what you just said about use the process of elimination. That is a really profound piece of advice, because a lot of times people are so focused on the question that they miss
hmm
the technique of using the process of elimination, which helped
yeah,
you to cut
yeah,
down your time and to end up getting all above targets at the end. So that's
yeah,
brilliant.
yeah, amazing. Thanks to you. I think I bothered you a lot because there were, when I was going through the quizzes, I know I sent you a lot of emails and I was like, no, this has to be right. How is this true wrong? And
And
then
that
you would
is good.
point out,
I loved the engagement, Iffy, because all of our friends here, and I'm not going to call you out, but I haven't heard from some of you in a while. I would love to. If you are stuck, or if you feel I don't really know about this, there are many folks on the call who have reached out to me with similar questions, and that's the way to do it. You got a trainer and coach who's willing to help, ready to help. Don't just drown alone trying to unravel everything alone. Now, if you one of the things that we talked about was the content outline. You remember we went through people, process, business, and there were videos about it. How important do you think the PMP exam content outline is uh, for the exam?
very important. Very, very, very important. That was my guiding tool to even determine my readiness. I was pretty strong with the people and with the business only because, like I said, Agile really, really strengthens your people skill because it's really about people. So once you get the concept of Agile principles, then you will get people. Any question associated with people, you are leading with those principles, and you're able to even do a process of elimination. Business, you have to think strategically, organizationally. Of course, it's just 8% of the question of the testing, but that got me well. But when it came to processes, is where you now have to brush up on your process groups and your knowledge areas because it's about the process that you would apply should you be presented with a case. So going through this process, going through, and in Agile, another reason why you have to understand Agile and hybrid is their terminologies. I know when I hadn't gone through my Agile, I would use English language process of elimination. So if you probe a term that I was unfamiliar with, I was like, what does it sound like in English language? And then I would just kind of guess my way through the process, which was good in practice, but I didn't want to go into the exam thinking that way. So you've got to understand your terminologies because the exam is going to be in Agile language than it would be in traditional language. So um, like, when you talk about the TDDs and the
Mhm,
XPs, it's going to be there. So
mhm,
you
mhm,
know language. Hybrid and predictive, that comes with the process. Once you've learned or honed down on your people and your process, hybrid and predictive is already embedded in there. You don't have to. This doesn't require anything additional. So that's my
Good
take on it.
stuff. Good stuff. I am learning, I'm telling you, because a lot of folks think I do the lessons learned just for students. No, I do it for both students and me, because each experience is different. And the more lessons learned I can learn, the better a trainer I'm going to be. And that's really why I'm lapping this up like a student, just jotting down notes. And I really appreciate it. Now, let me ask you this: reflections and additional advice. What would you tell your colleagues? Let's say you have any peers who are looking to do this. They say hindsight is 2020. Is there anything you would do differently, or what would you advise them to do if they looking to take the exam. Oh, and one more that's not here. You've got
Mhm.
friends on the call. I want to give a shout out to some of your classmates who are here,
Oh,
Carlos and Latanya.
hi.
They were in the class with you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought I would be the last person to take the exam. No one else has. Guys, go take it. You're ready. You got us ready. He was right. He was right.
I'm going to unmute because I'm sure Latonia has got something to say. And Carlos, you want to give a shout out to your classmate? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations! That's amazing.
Thank
That's
you.
I am so happy to hear that. This is
Thank you.
awesome. Yeah, I was all kind of, my mind was all set to go by September, but I had to change my plans because of I have some go lives that that I just,
Yeah.
I had to change my plans because of work. But so now I have to get back on the on here. So in a couple of
Yeah.
weeks, I'm hoping
Yeah.
to get that done. But congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
This is Latanya. Congratulations. I am so proud of you. You did it. And you didn't
Woo!
take any time.
Thank you,
You,
Latanya.
yes, you didn't take, you beat me to the punch bowl. But I just want to let you know that my exam has been scheduled. I will not share the date with anyone. The only person know is Phil. He is the only person in this whole wild world, other than the proctors. They're the only ones who know when my test is scheduled. So I'm just going to say it's coming up soon. And thanks for your advice. I did listen to what you said. Thanks a lot. Once again, congratulations.
Thank you, guys. We all did it. It's my advice too is, again, I'm just taking learnings from the last time. This is my second go around, and my takeaway from then is I was working, and I have a buddy who failed too. Then he's in my industry as well, and I remember before I signed up with this program, I said, dude, he had just gotten laid off and had a nice little package, and it's like, oh my god, give yourself a good 1 month. Let's do this together, because once we get back to work, it's just really hard. Work takes precedence. It's really hard to commit. And I just know that if I had rolled back to work before I took the exam, I would have possibly another storyline to tell. And I got tired of my storyline. So I guess my advice is, and I took Phil's advice when I was concerned about children, childcare, COVID, and the whole shebang. I just said, you know what, forget about it. I'm just going to hire a nanny. I'm going to dedicate, I had to plan it out. I talked to my husband. We put aside a budget. We structured how much her hourly rates would be and the hours she would give. And we knew that by 1 month we can max this budget. So we have to make sure that we have her hired during that period and we commit to it, because that has to be done by then and nothing more. So yeah, time management is our biggest challenge when it comes to this PMP exam taking and prep. And other than that, if we didn't have time as a problem, I think anybody who practices the PM can ace it, in my opinion. It's not really that crazy.
Absolutely. Thank you, our friends, Latanya, Carlos, for coming on. Thank you very much for Lizette, who is on YouTube, and says thank you to you, Iffy, for all the tips. We also have Cameron here. Cameron said he joined late. But Cameron has a question. How much emphasis did you place on mock exams?
A lot of emphasis on mock exams. That is your measure. That's your yardstick. Phil's mock exam was my yardstick. I took it twice, by the way. The first, and again, I use it to measure my knowledge and measure my timing. It was, I think I scored 80. 80 was what I got at Phil's mock going into the exam, by the way. I didn't score a 90 or anything. I got like he suggested. So there was also that little nerve of, okay, am I really ready? But I didn't want to press it too much. Mock exams are your yardstick. Do the mocks, understand. There's a guy that came on, I forgot his name, Phil, that you invited. And he said one of the things that he took away whenever he took an exam is he looked at the things he got and the things he didn't get. And he, because sometimes you think you failed an answer, you actually got it right, and then you don't go back and look at it because you got it right. So I took that note, and every test quiz I did, I would look at the ones that were correct, and it's okay, yeah, okay, I was thinking the right way. or it justified my thinking, which adds confidence. And the ones I got wrong, oh my gosh, I omitted that. Oh, it's my fault. And that was what I did. You know.
Brilliant. Thank you, Iffy. This is, like I said, it's been very helpful to students. It's helping me as well. Now, one of the things that students often say is, how do I know I'm ready? So at what point did you say, this is it, showtime can begin?
Applicability, like this is the way I learn. Everyone is different. I am generally very poor at cramming, which is one of the reasons I was even nervous to start off with. So one way I determine my readiness in anything is when I can answer a question if you change the narrative various ways, because I understand the concept. So that was another reason why when I was studying, I didn't go 4 to 5 to 6 to 7. I mean, you can do that if you have time. If you have luxury of time, you can go 4, 5, 6, all the way to 13. That's a good scan read, and then come back and review per process group. You know, so now you've ran through the whole book, scan reading sequentially, and now you'll come back to do a review. Review it again. You're in initiation stage, and you're going to be doing developing project charter and identifying stakeholder management. So you look at those together and look at the ITTOs associated with it, and then you go into the next group, what you're doing under planning. So once you get it, everything else is child play, because when you're in the exam, once you understand what knowledge area you're in, which process group you're in, you can make sense of the question and the answers, regardless of how it's framed. So that is I think is the best way to develop your confidence of readiness is being able to even tell that story. If you can narrate that to somebody else, then you're good.
You are so pragmatic in your approach. I love it. I love it. Thank you.
If a quick question for you.
Yeah.
What make you decide whether to take the exam at home, or in your case, you decided to go into the to take it, I guess, in the place where you take the exam? I'm trying. I mean, for my sense, I'm thinking weekend, because that's the only time that I can do it. It will have to be home. Is that something that you took into account, or?
Yes, I did. Quite frankly, I even bought there's a little our closet is pretty big. So during my study times when I'm at home, my husband and I converted the shoe shelves in our closet to a little wall desk. And this is just for me. I tried studying in the office. I tried studying in one room, but kids noise, echo, room, someone cooking. There were a lot of various distractions that didn't really make me focus as I should. But when I found a 4x4 corner where the air is controlled, there's no visual, no windows to look at, and you can easily be subdued, I saw myself a bit more focused. That's just me. Everybody's different, because I had a colleague at work who would do best when she's drinking a glass of wine. Hey, everyone to each his own. So if you know your rhythm, then you create a space in your room with that rhythm. Outside of the room, when I would go to the library, there was a library I found, and again, it's just, you have to find your space, where it was like the man built Europe in his compound, and it was open to the public. It was a theological library, so dead quiet, pin drop. And I would go in there to this theological library, and there were these little corners that you can go into and study. So I guess based on that experience, I said, okay, I can take it at home, in my closet, but there's still the outside distraction. So I had bought all the kits required to take it at home. But over time, last week actually, I decided against it, because one thing makes me puck up: room temperature. Cooler air keeps me more alert than warmer air. Everyone is different, whatever works for you. In those centers, cool air is cooler there because they have computers, unlike your home where it's controlled. So I thought, you know what, maybe I need to be in a center where it's a pin drop, like a library. Everybody's kind of focused on that, versus in my house where I could hear the kids screaming downstairs. Whether it's a Saturday or if I did it during the week, the internet could lag, and that could affect my connection, and it can be a distraction. So yes, I battled with that choice for the last week, And I went forward to just go to the center and do it in the center and returned everything I purchased to have it at home. That's like, it's interesting.
It's a great piece of advice. Does that help, Carl, answer the question? Give you some
Yeah,
context?
I've been struggling with that because I'm thinking, I mean, really for me, it's only the weekend that I have the time to take the exam, but I didn't know if that's an option on the site
It's an
itself.
option. I took it on Saturday, so it's an option.
Mm-hmm.
Only.
And hi, Carlos. I'm new to the team. I'm follow a field channel and just give you some advice from some other people that I heard they took the exam on their houses. Some of them, there was a person, I am based in Mexico, and there was a girl that she was in Mexico City and she scheduled the exam, she had it, and she had a power outage.
Ooh.
Or you can have an internet loss connection, so there's a risk, right? So that's, I also prefer to take it on a sender. That's what I would like to achieve. That's my suggestion, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for coming, and thanks for following the channel. And I saw that you were on the YouTube first, and you joined us here.
Yeah, I saw it later. Yeah.
Thank you, and you shared a question. We'll just go into your question really quick. You said that regarding the acronyms. So, Iffy, this is for you. Regarding the acronyms, does the PMI and the PMP exam give you the acronym meaning? For example, SV, CV, and so on.
They spell it out. They don't use acronyms.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah,
that's good. Good to know. Awesome. Awesome. So thank you for that advice. And honestly, I think taking the exam, where you take it, the location, it's everything. Location is everything. Some folks will do well taking it at home. They've rehearsed. It's amazing how you could have 3 siblings in the same house, and one can study with noise, and the other one, you just put a tiny little bit of audio on from a stereo and they go in berserk. They can't study. And I experienced that with my kids. And I'm sure for us as individuals, we see that. Sometimes we can study where there's noise, and other times we can't. And for some people, it's just one bit of noise, and I know that it's going to take me double time. And I'm kind of like that on a lot of occasions. So I take noise cancellation headphones with me, especially when I go on a plane and I need to work. So you got to know who you are and how you work, and based on that, make the decision. But don't shuck from going to the test center. I tell people, if you take it in the test center, you're putting the risk. Hello, PMP exam students, risk management, right? Remember the seller, when you put all the risk, right, on the seller, you don't have to own any of the risk of taking it at home. If you take it at home, like Angela said, the poor lady in Mexico City, you hear all of those stories all the time. People taking the exam, power cut, or the internet lags, or some kid burst into the room and the exam is discontinued. So you really need to be sure if you're taking it at home, you also need to have the fortitude to bear the unfortunate or unpleasant news of a cancellation, because if your proctor says, I can't see you anymore, there's nothing you can do. You got no control over that. So just be aware, you got to be courageous if you're taking it at home. Those who take it at home for $550 exam, 350 minutes, I doff my hat to you. You're courageous. And I know a lot of people take it at home, but we're all different in our risk tolerance. Hey, do you see what I threw in there? Risk tolerance, our risk appetite. We're all different.
Language. And I want to add, Carlos, I know when I was reading the instructions, take it at home. Yes, I needed a noise cancellation headset. Oh my God. So I have one, all right, and I thought I could use it, and I think it said you can't, because I'm not sure if you have someone speaking in the headsets to you.
Yes.
So, but if you take it to center, obviously it's provided. They'll give that to you, and that was great for me too. So just FYI, there's some things that you will be given a center that you're not allowed to have at home because there's no one there to inspect it. It's like they even inspect your glasses when you go to the center, make sure you don't have any cameras in there. So just FYI, you won't have that luxury in your home.
Do they give you paper, Iffy? Scratch paper?
Yes, they'll give you scratch paper, they'll give you the marker. So they'll give you that. I don't think you're allowed, because I know, again, I was ready. If I had taken it the end of September, I would have taken it at home because I was ready to take it at home. And I went through all the requirements. And then there, I was like, okay, anything could happen. I also was planning to take it, if I was going to take it at home, to take it like in the wee hours at night, like maybe 9 o'clock, because the internet is faster when everyone is asleep versus in the daytime everyone's working from home. It gets overloaded. That's your carrier. That is not just your house, but your carrier provides internet service to people in public, and they oftentimes aren't working at 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night. So you are most assured you won't have a lag or drop off during that period. But if you take it during work hours, then there's a chance that it could get shut down. They're working on a fiber optics outside and it shuts down. And now you have to make a case to PMP for that. So
Yeah.
I was also entertaining those factors, and it seemed it would be complicated. Given my household, if I lived alone, maybe different. If I lived in my own little condo and things were assured, everybody's situation is different, but gauge it. And then if it seems like it's a lot that you have to take into consideration, then take the simple route, like you said, transfer that risk to PMP and go to the center. And that's that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, some people say, oh, like the mask is hideous. Did you have to wear a mask all throughout?
I mean, yes, you do, but when you get to your chair, it's like a cubicle box enclosed. You can draw your mask down if you want to at your chair and do what you have to do in that box. So you get up when you come out, now you mask up. So, you don't have to wear the whole 4 hours.
Yeah, Zoom went goofy, but I kind of got what you said, Iffy. So when you get to your own little cubicle, you can take the mask off and then you put it back on when you're leaving to go out to a more condensed area. Okay. Got it. This is very helpful information, and I'm hoping that it's helping our friends on the call make sense of the process and put themselves into it, because they may not have thought about it. We got a question from, I believe, Mbe K. I was wondering, if your application is approved, how long do you have in time to pay and sit for the exam? So I believe it's still 1 year. If did they give you that, hey, now you're approved, you got 1 year to take the exam?
Yeah, they gave an expiration date. I mean, I paid for it, and yeah, it's 1 year. It's 1 year because it was till 2022. From the moment of time you get approved, they pay for it. And you can pay for your exam ahead of time. All that's left is just to schedule and take it within that 1 year. So when I applied, I paid for the exam way ahead of time. So all it required me is just to schedule it and take it whenever you want to.
Good stuff. I got a question, Iffy. This thing here, the Project Management Audio Digest, we sent all of you folks from the masterclass the MP3. Did you use that to study, to kind of refresh yourself along the way?
Yes, I had it on my phone. So when I go to the grocers, again, this has become part of my life. I dedicated 1 month and change to speak PMP. So yes, it's on my phone. It will be in my car. I play it just to refresh. And I think it's stuck in my head. It's stuck in my head,
That is good to know. I'm glad you used it, because you got to use everything that you've got. You've already covered the knowledge areas. Which knowledge area was your favorite, if any?
Stakeholder.
Lovely.
Stakeholder, because it was what I do most. So my favorite is what comes natural for me, and the challenges are what I haven't actually practiced often, but I don't practice often.
Gotcha. Another question people ask is, do I need to learn page 25? So I know the exam is not a rote exam, but when you got towards the end of studying, I believe you've already shared how knowing the knowledge area you were in was useful. So what did you do, if anything, with page 25 and the 49 processes? Did you know all of them sufficiently well?
Yeah, I know my processes. Again, it was important for me, since it's 50% of the question, to understand the process. So yes, I knew my processes sufficiently. So.
Good.
Know your processes. Know your processes.
Good stuff. All right. I want to ask our friends on the call if they have any additional questions. Please feel free to ask. This is your session. It's for you. We're at the tail end. We got some FAQs here. Did you read the PMBOK guide? I know you have gone through the PMBOK guide in the past, but in this last month, it seems like you focused a lot on the LMS. You didn't robotically go through page by page by page. You kind of
no.
our learning
I
system.
read the PMBOK guide. FYI, even though I didn't go through each item slowly, I read through chapters 1 to 13 of the PMPEC guide. I read the PMPEC guide.
Wow. Well
I
done.
scanned, read, and then I went back and scanned, reviewed. The Agile practice guide, I ran through it and I went back and re-reviewed twice. So
Lovely.
each of them was scanned, reads, reviewed back. And you can do it. I literally went through Agile practice guide in a day.
Ooh.
And reviewed in 2 days. Just FYI.
Do you remember? I was telling folks, look,
Yeah.
just pick the thing up, speed read it, do it, whatever you do. Don't go in without taking a good look at it. And you did.
And the Scrum guide too. The Scrum
Oh,
guide.
wow.
Do not go to the exam without reading through PMPEC, Scrum, and Agile. Do not go
Wow.
into the exam. And it's
Wow.
not hard. PMPEC guide, I finished the PMPEC guide in a week.
Wow.
I used Phil's thing. You can pick a chapter or two to cover. And when you go through it, it's not that, once you know, the tools and techniques are repeated in some areas. So once you know it in one area, you're going to, okay, yeah, meetings, okay, yeah, you're going to decision making, multi-criteria decision making. So you don't have to reread it again. You can scan through as you go through, but you can read the PMPEC guide. I would say ideally in a week, worst case scenario, 2 weeks. You literally can be ready in a month. We have read through the PMPEC guide, have read through the Agile practice guide and the Scrum guide. They're not too much. It's not too much. It's not, I promise you, you can. You can get through it.
We got another great question here for you, Iffy, and that question is from Learning Kids. Learning Kids, our friend on YouTube, is asking, 6th or 7th? 6th or 7th, that's a brilliant question. Thank you for asking that, Learning Kids, because I wanted to bring that up and it just escaped me, so I appreciate the prompt. So Iffy, in our training, we only touched on the 12 principles at a very high level. Would you say that not reading the 7th hurt you in any way? Of course it didn't, because you got 3 ATs, right? But
Yeah.
What is your perspective now that you're done? People that say, oh, the 7th can hurt you if you don't read it.
The 7th is again, oh, that's the Agile practice guide. No, it's
the 7th edition, the new PMPEC guide that just came out.
Oh, forget about the 7th edition. I was worried, but he knows I was. He knows I was. I don't know what's in the 7th edition. To be honest with you, I even challenged Phil. And I even went to YouTube to get other people's opinion, other trainers' opinion of the 7th guide. And there were excerpts where saying, oh, 7th guide has about 20% of it. So here's my takeaway. Know the process area, know the knowledge area, and understand Agile, understand Scrum, and you're set. You're good to go. Don't know what will happen here. Again, they constantly change exams, but with what I took, I was worried about that. He knows I was heavily worried about it.
I know you were.
But knowing that's why you have to read the PMPEC guide, knowing my PMPEC guide and understanding my Agile and understanding my Scrum, you're good to go.
Absolutely. Thank you for the answer, Iffy. And we have already conducted 7th edition training for people who wanted to learn the 7th edition for, pragmatism in the workplace and so on. And maybe some of them are in a C level position with project management. So we already did that. But as far as doing that for your PMP, there's absolutely no need for you to do that right now. Like Iffy said, things will change, but it's going to be a gradual increment, and it's definitely not now. So don't bother yourself going to read the 7th. Just watch the couple of videos I have out there on YouTube about 7th edition for PMPs. It's really more about the mindset thing more than anything else. We got a great question in here from our friend Mbe K as well. And how many questions did you have that related to formulas or Agile specifically? So I think you've already answered the Agile one, but the formula one you haven't.
Formulas, don't waste your time. The only formulas that came up there were the CVs and SVs, which you already know. You understand CVs and SVs naturally. You can look at an answer and then determine where you are. And when it's not like they ask you to calculate it, or they'll tell you if you're under budget or above budget. That's all. CVs, SVs, and nothing
CVs,
else.
SVs.
I didn't get VAC question, but that's me. Every question is different. I didn't get that.
True.
So.
Everyone is different, but I hope that
Yeah.
gives our friends some confidence. So any other
Yeah.
questions from our friends on YouTube? What about our friends here? I want to give a shout out to our friends here who did come to celebrate with us, a celebration as well. Angeles, thank you. Carlos, Eric, Latanya. Michelle,
Yeah.
thank you. Michelle is my friend. Good to have you here, Valerie and Virginia. All of you, thank you for joining us. Do you have any questions or concerns that you would like Iffy to answer specifically for you, or that you would like me to answer for you?
Yeah, I have a question. I joined a little late, so I didn't know if this was already answered. But just to recap of when I was hearing you, Iffy, it's what was your study material? So you go to the PM Book 6 guide edition, the Agile practice guide. And I saw that also Phil was showing you an audio, a guide. I just would like to see what was your study material.
So my study material was the PMBOK Guide, 6th edition, Agile Practice Guide, Scrum Guide, and then Phil's materials that's provided once you sign up with him. So he has this LMS module where you can download audio digests. You can have it on your phone, you can play it. And of course, his module on the computer where you can do the quizzes and do the mocks. You need to do a mock. You don't go in without doing a mock. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Did you take also any, like, there's some tests that you can do some testing, so you there's some like a simulators, right? Did you also take some simulators?
Yes, I would suggest you guys could try. PMI has a simulator. It actually gives you PDUs. So I did get that, and it's pretty good to have. It's $99, but in my opinion, I think it's nice to have. There's two things you're getting. You're getting some real life questions, how it's phrased sometimes, and then also you're getting your PDUs, which you need now once you become certified. So it's online. You go to pmi.org. It's called a practice exam. It's about 300 questions. You can do it. I do it when I'm in the kitchen cooking. I'll just, answer some questions. So that's also good to have. It's optional. I don't think it's like a do or die, but it's also something that you can have because it's from PMI. It's nothing.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah.
Yeah, not harmful.
No. Yeah.
So yeah, I totally subscribe to, if you get anything from PMI, that's okay. But there's a lot of free stuff out there that is a little bit questionable because you don't know the source. I always tell people, don't just go to a bottomless pit where you don't know who put the question together. Go to where you know the source. And for that reason, on the screen here, I know some folks maybe find it hard to channel their efforts. Just go on down to pmsucceed.com. There's one-on-one coaching if you need it. There's on-demand. So if he did a live course with me where everything was covered live from beginning to end, we went through Agile, manifesto values, the principles, Scrum, Kanban. We did everything, right? But we did it live. And on the screen here, you can see we got one coming up. It's actually coming up next week. So if you go on down to projectmanagementmasterclass.com, you can sign up for that. But if you want to do on-demand self-study, go on down to pmsucceed.com. You can sign up for the on-demand version. And all of those modules that Iffy has been referring to, for each module, which is a pretty much a process in the PMBOK guide, there's 5 questions per process. So she had a ton of content when she came on this course with us. And if you're struggling, I would advise just going down to PM Succeed, sign up, or going down to projectmanagementmasterclass.com and sign up. You'll be in good hands. My buddy Roy and I, we've been doing this for eons, right? We got a lot of experience between us, and we'll get you to your goal. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Thank you, Phil.
You're welcome. Any other questions or concerns or comments? Our friends on YouTube, any questions? Go in once, go in twice, go in thrice. All right. Iffy, you are the PMP guru for the day and forever. Thank you very much, and go celebrate. It was a bumpy road, but you got there. Bumpy because life throws stuff at you, but you navigated it really well. A shout out to your husband and your family. Celebrate with you folks. Just enjoy your PMP, and if you've got any questions along the way, don't hesitate to jump back in, and let's connect on LinkedIn. I couldn't find you on LinkedIn. Let's connect on LinkedIn.
Okay. Yeah. Ifoma. I don't know if you know my full name, but
okay, I will look.
And congratulations again. Congratulations. Celebrate.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. All right. I have to check out. Babysitter's waiting on me.
All right. Thank you, Iffy.
All
Take
right.
care.
Have a great
Talk
weekend,
to you
guys. All
soon.
right.
Thank you, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
All right. If you have any questions, I'm going to hang around here for another couple of minutes. Questions or concerns?
I will access later to your channel, Phil, and I have been following you. So yeah, there's great advices, and thank you so much for everything. I'll go and jump in and see.
Okay,
what
sounds great.
and
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you for the great content.
Thank you, Angeles. Take care. Anyone got any other question for me or
Yes,
concern?
Phil, this is Latanya. I have one quick question.
Hey, Latanya.
On the learning system,